Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of In Conversation. This is the series where I chat with some of the artists, conductors, musicians behind many of the concerts that we do, including, of course, Salute to Vienna. My guest today is a Grammy-nominated conductor who has conducted orchestras around the world. He is the music director of the South Bend Symphony Orchestra and principal conductor and artistic advisor of the Sinfonia Boca Raton. Last season, he was re-engaged by the Chicago Symphony, Qatar Philharmonic, and Salute to Vienna, of course. And he made his Vienna debut with the Vienna Opera Ball Orchestra. This season, he returns to the Qatar Philharmonic and to Salute to Vienna and makes his debut with Vienna's Imperial Philharmonic. My guest, of course, is the incredible Alastair Willis. Alastair, so great to see you again. How you doing?
Doing great, thank you. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's a busy time of year for all of us. So getting into that swing of things for sure. Yeah, so I had an amazing time chatting with you last year. And, folks can check out that episode where we talk a lot about your beginnings and how you got into conducting and your career as a whole. One thing we didn't chat about, and I really wanted to touch on, was this Grammy nomination of yours, which happened with it happened with the Nashville Symphony, and it was you. So you recorded an album that was nominated for Best Classical Album. It was around 2009. And so what I'm wondering is, how did you get involved in this project? Talk to me a little bit about it, and why do you think this particular album received that recognition?
Oh gosh, yes, that was a while ago now. I was invited to conduct the Nashville Symphony Orchestra in Tennessee, and between the time of my invitation and when I showed up, the music director sadly passed on, Kenneth Schermerhorn, after whom the main hall was named. So my week turned into more of a conducting week, and my week turned into more than a conducting week. It turned into a recording project as well for two small, short operas. And we had a great time with that. It's very unusual for a guest conductor to do a recording with another orchestra. That usually goes to the music director. So we had a great time putting that together. And one of the recordings, the recording of Ravel's opera L'Enfant et les Sortilèges, which is The Child and the Enchantments, was nominated for a Grammy. And I got to go to the Grammys. I got to take my number one date, my mother, and we had just a fabulous time.
So what is that like to receive a Grammy nomination? Like, that must have just felt like such an honor that you probably weren't expecting in terms of this career path. It's not as though you're going into pop music or some of the typical stuff that's you think would have Grammy nominee beside it, right? What was that like?
I got the call. It had been a rough day wherever I was when I got the call from the executive director of the Nashville Symphony, Alan Valentine, and I thought this was a prank call. He basically said, "You've been nominated for a Grammy. Call me back." I got a message, didn't pick up the phone, and I'm like going, "This is that's the last thing I need today, a prank call." But it wasn't a prank call, and it actually ended up making my day. Alan was there, and other members of the Nashville team were at the Grammys as well. They've gone on to win many Grammys with what they've done, which is remarkable to now be a part of their legacy.
And the nice thing, of course, it's not about the awards, but it is nice to have that little moniker beside your name in biographies or things like that. Grammy nominee or Grammy nominated conductor, right? Of course.
It certainly makes Alastair Willis look a little bit more colorful than
That's exactly it.
So I'm very grateful for that. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So, I've spent a year kind of watching video footage of you now. I know that sounds strange, but of course, as I go through all the old Salute to Vienna footage, you are so unbelievably fun to watch on the podium. And for anyone who gets the treat of maybe sitting in a choir loft where they can really get to see you, it's not just for the audience, it's for the orchestra. You are expressive, you're animated. You come alive with the music, and I'm just wondering if that's always kind of been a part of you, or if you developed that style of conducting as your career went on. Was that it from the get-go for you?
Gosh, I think there's always been a dramatic element in me, but I'd like to think that the music that I'm conducting brings out the appropriate dramatic element. My aim is never to pull focus away from the music and the musicians, because they're making the music, not me. I'm silent up there, hopefully, unless I'm singing or commentating. But I remember walking out for my very first concert ever. This was back when I was a student at Bristol University. It was a choir. I was a bit nervous because I walked on, I saw the audience, bowed, and then I turned away and just saw what I'd been seeing in rehearsals, just a choir. I forgot that the audience were there. And at the end of our performance, there was applause. I'm going, oh, that's right, we're in a concert. Since then, I've performed in concert halls all over the world, and some of them are like that, where the choir or the orchestra is the last thing in the room. But I actually love when a hall is in the round, so that we have audience 360. I liked that very much as a student, because whenever when I was younger, I would always try and get a seat behind the orchestra so I could see the conductor and learn a bit more than just watching his or her back. So I'm very aware to be playing to the entire room, not just the people behind me. And one of our most recent concerts at the New York Geffen Hall had that situation, and that was very fun to be able to inclusive on a 360. Sometimes it's hard because I'm facing this way and addressing the audience, and I've got to remember every now and then to look around and just to acknowledge. But I love that, and I think the audience likes it too, and I think the orchestra loves being surrounded by the audience.
I was just going to say, not just that, but I also, as a musician, I would feed off of you so much, just if you're giving me that kind of enthusiasm as a conductor. So it's certainly a nice treat to see. Speaking of conducting and being an enthusiastic leader for so many, you had the privilege, well, we had the privilege of having you rather conduct Classicalia music competition in Vienna this summer, which is a music competition that we also co-produced. Talk to me, I want to hear about your experience in Vienna, but first just talk to me about that competition and what it was like conducting for these unreal kids. So talented.
You're absolutely right, but I have to go back and tell you about coming into Vienna.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Many years of, I mean, I visited Vienna several times in my life, but not for many years. And in the past 6 years, I have been focusing on Salute to Vienna concerts. So here I am arriving early morning, because that's when the plane got in, had my breakfast, and I didn't have anything until the next day. And I walked around the city, and there is a statue of Mozart, of Beethoven, of Johann Strauss, Schubert's house, where all these famous people were born. I mean, this city, you just breathe classical music. You breathe the history, the richness that it stood for and stands for. And I was walking around singing predominantly, in my mind, more than anything else, Strauss waltzes, and thinking of, wow, I need to be taking pictures of me and Johann Jr. here, right here, and I've done that, and it just felt so wonderful to close these worlds, if you will, to connect these worlds that I've been doing. But I was there not to conduct a Salute to Vienna. I was there to conduct, as you said, the Classicalia Concerto competition, and it was a remarkable few days. How on earth you find such incredible talent of the three age groups and what they do with their instruments. And the Opera Ball Orchestra were phenomenal to work with. There was so many concerts. I shared the work with another conductor, and I tell you, when he conducted Laszlo Güker, when he conducted as an overture the Blue Danube Waltz, I mean, it was a lesson to me to see how he conducted and how they played. And I'm going to bring all that I've learned there on that piece back to Salute to Vienna here.
Isn't that fascinating? Because one thing I wanted to ask was how you still challenge yourself and each year, and right there you've kind of actually hit on it just by you've discovered sort of new nuances to a piece that you've conducted so many times, and that allows for you to bring something new to it this year. That's incredible. And I'm so glad I did want to ask about what it was like to see Johann Strauss's statue and stuff. Because for me, that must just be, I don't want to use the word spiritual necessarily, but such a reverent experience to walk the streets that they walk. These are people who fall into the realm of myth almost because they're so huge, right? And you're there in the place that they, I mean, Strauss especially wrote this music, right? You're very lucky. It's on my to-do list for sure.
The reverence has only increased as I get older.
Yeah,
When you're
yeah,
younger, it's like, oh, that's nice and that's cool. There's Beethoven, there's Mozart. But having conducted so much and living it and embodying so much of what Vienna gave to the world, being there was really special this last time.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what that does for this year's Salute to Vienna concert for you. Speaking of, this is just kind of always the case, par for the course of the time period that we're in. But, once again, Salute to Vienna is coming at a time where there's a lot of pain, a lot of turmoil in the world. You spoke a little bit about this last year, but I just wanted to get that wonderful answer from you again. And that's, why do you think it is important to take a step back at around the New Year's, the holiday period, and sort of celebrate and bring in the new, despite or in spite of what's going on, what we're dealing with? There was a pandemic, there's global conflict. Why is Salute to Vienna important?
Well, I can't remember what I said last year, so
That's
apologies
good.
if I repeat myself. But the idea of having a fresh start every year, or to have a moment where you can look back and look forward and make some new challenges or promises, or set some personal goals, that's important to me. I can't speak for anybody else, but I've always appreciated that. Now, as a musician, I, I of course love it when I can attend a New Year's concert. And that could be anything. That could be Beethoven 9, that could be Mahler, that could be anything. But music around the new year for me is synonymous with the Viennese tradition of the New Year's Day concerts. And this means the music of the Strauss family, of the Hungarians who lived in Vienna in the mid 19th century, the Kalmans, the Franz Lehas, the Franz von Suppe, all together, just for me, create an atmosphere of pleasure, of joy, of delight, of celebration that has continued for so many years, and it's still just as relevant today as it always has been. So for me to reconnect with that joy, that happiness, is extraordinarily important because of all the challenges that we've been facing, whether they be personal challenges or global conflict, as you said, pandemic. Music brings us together. It does that, whatever the situations are, however tragic the situation, our music unites us, brings us together, and lifts us. And there's no better example of that than a Salute to Vienna concert.
I think that's perfect. And last year was probably a great example of that. What was it like to, I mean, we did have some concerts sprinkled in through the pandemic, but last year was arguably the one where it's like everybody's back. And what was what was that energy like to be like, oh, this is it, we're back, after all of this that we've dealt with?
Well, there's always energy for a Salute to Vienna concert, from the solos, from the dancers, and from the orchestra. There's always energy from me because it's a different orchestra. Attila and Marian, they send me to a different area each time, a different orchestra. So I might be doing the same music or similar music, but it's fresh faces, fresh voices, fresh dancers, and all of this adds to the freshness that I experience and the energy. I think from all of us, having had our own individual experiences, coming to being performing again was unique, was special, and on another level.
Alastair, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. It's always a pleasure. We got to do this again next year, and wishing you all the best with your 3 Salute to Vienna concerts this year. It's going to be a busy one, but a really, really good one. Thanks for chatting with me.
Thank you, Nick. Looking forward.